and why do I know it was 2019?
Because it was before.
Just before 2020, just before COVID. And so I'm just gonna say it because as I looked at it, I thought, well, I don't really wanna pull anything out. So I'm gonna address the big old elephant in the room. We might have mixed opinions, herbs and medical and everything didn't used to be such a divided topic. And I thought, I'm just gonna put it out there and there it is. But I'm not stirring any pots, I don't have an agenda. And so there it is. Because I'm talking about natural, not medicine. I'm not talking about encouraging big pharma. I'm encouraging what do we have. And so I had a friend who I used to talk about this stuff all the time, and she finally said, why don't you try to put a class together? And I went to Ace Hardware right here in Chickamauga because I said, you know what, you sell mason jars, you sell herbs, you sell natural honey, and I said, I don't want to make a dime, you could just set your stuff out there. But then I got to thinking, I thought, it's a business. And what if I say something and somebody goes, well, So I said, let's go to the library. It sounds like a better venue, and Renee had me. So here's my medical disclaimer. Make sure you consult a doctor. I don't want anyone to go off of chemo. I don't want anyone to take your meds and flush them down the toilet. So there, I just got that in there. Just found a typical generic medical disclaimer. We're all good. So anyway, but Hippocrates did say, let food be thy medicine. And herbs have a lot of natural, medicinal properties, and you probably already have it in your pantry, and it's very easy to grow, generally speaking. So, I'm still calming down because of worrying about technical. So if I'm talking 100 miles too fast, just do something and tell me to slow it down, because that's kind of my nervous thing to do, is talk too fast. But anyway, so yeah, it used to be big pharma was over here and the big government was over there, and we might have had split, politically one is angry at this and politically one is angry at that. But I think nowadays, they're in bed together. One lines the pockets of the other, and we're not really sure what to believe. And so that's as close to being kind of political as you're gonna hear, because I'm not gonna stir that pot. But, okay, that, I might have forgot to hit save on that. But you do see that what is every ad on television pretty much about? It's fast food to make you sick, and then they'll want to sell you something to make you better. And it's intentional. And they call it the SAD, the Standard American Diet. The word is sad. Or MAD, the Modern American Diet. And so I'm going to quote somebody. Pay attention to the side effects. I've been without television ever since they forced us to get cable. And so I thought, well, maybe if I went to someone's house, I used to say I kind of detoxed my brain. I like not having television around the house. But I do have the computer and I have YouTube. I thought maybe if I went to someone's house, what's on television would annoy me. It didn't annoy me very much. But the ads drive me up the wall. They're like nails on a chalkboard to me. It's like I hate them. So listen to the side effects. Sometimes they'll even go with a very smooth voice, including death, which just kills me. The placebo effect, which means a good attitude can get you better. A good attitude can make you better. And then Dr. Caroline Leaf had referred to something called the bliss factor. Now this is probably just a fun little taste test for kids. They don't have photos on the internet of it. But they actually use children, specifically toddlers, the age kids that want cereals, the fancy cereals with the fruity little pictures on the front. And they get kids to taste it, or snacks or whatever, and they're looking for the bliss factor. And she actually said, I consider that child abuse, but that's Dr. Caroline Leaf. But anyway, it exists. They really want you to just crave the bad food, and then they want to sell you a pill for it. Oh, well that didn't work. Okay, so I'll just miss just because of a different computer. Okay, so there was a man who stepped on an elevator, and there were a whole lot of doctors in the elevator, and he said, pardon me, I'm just curious about something. What do you think about medicine 100 years ago? And they all went, well, that was horrible back then. I mean, we could almost call it barbaric, or maybe even kind of torturous back then. And I said, yeah, that's interesting. And as the elevator door opened and he was stepping out, he said, I wonder what they'll say about you 100 years from now. And it was like, oh, the laughter kind of died down. There he had a lecture, but that's how he began the lecture. So point being, be proactive with your health. Be proactive. So there it is. No politics. We're just talking herbs. But, encouraging people to think for themselves. Herbs are very easy to grow. Do you all grow herbs? Mm-hmm. Oh, and what I forgot to say, because my heart was pounding, I don't like to be a public speaker. Interact with me. If I bring up an herb and I have a list of things that it'll help, and you go, oh, I always take that for this, or I throw it in. Just because the lights are out doesn't mean you have to be quiet like you're in the movies. So anyway, they're very easy to grow. Cheap to grow, but expensive to buy. And doesn't that make you almost mad in the store if you have your own herbs? Because, let's say it's mint. It's invasive and aggressive and choking things out. And here you go, what? A little tiny bottle and what? But anyway, so you can save yourself a lot of money. Ancient medicine, okay, that was supposed to pop in afterwards because it went all the way back to Egypt, Africa, India, China. But modern day, who hangs on to something ancient, kind of brings it a little bit more current. That's kind of interesting. There are a lot of home remedies out there. Here's a job you've probably never heard of. Have you heard of an herb steward? Back in the medieval times, if you lived in a dark, dank castle, or I think every home probably didn't smell as good as our homes. They didn't have central air and heating systems, and they had, latrines and whatnot. And so if you were wealthy, you could afford to have someone who would strew herbs on the floor and make your house smell better. They didn't have a can of Lysol or something like that. So that's kind of medieval days. I kind of enjoyed that. The nuns back in the medieval times, they were kind of like your nurses. So if they're training to be a nun, they're not just studying religious things, they're learning, what does yarrow do, and what does this do, and what does that do, and they would be quizzed on that. So it goes way back. It's like, oh, okay, they're not clicking like I wanted. But anyway, did you know that every mason jar universally fits every single blender there is? Yeah? Sometimes people go, what, really? They're all made to fit. So even the little ones, I love taking just a little jar or a big jar. Every mason, you're looking shocked at me. It will fit every single blender. So you don't have to, oops, okay, I had a little something come over these pictures here. So you don't have to spend a ton of money. When I mention a blender, you probably just, my blender is just a little $30 blender mason jar. You don't have to go get the Vitamix and the NutriBullet. Just put it on there, flip it upside down, it works. And the smaller the jar, the more powerful your blender becomes. I tried flaxseed, and if I put it in a large, if I throw it in the blender, it just flies all around. So I put it in a quart, put it in a little pint, not a half pint, I should say, little half pint. Now it whizzes it up. Now it blends it up. Did you know that every Parmesan cheese lid fits a mason jar? Kind of cool to know if you're going to be drying your herbs. So anyway, yeah, I do know that I have gotten some maybe dollar store Parmesan cheese and something didn't fit. But generally speaking, you can get, it doesn't have to say Kraft, it can be store brand or whatever. But that's kind of fun to know. So Okay, most herbs are antiviral. COVID-19 is a virus. And how many times didn't I pop that on Facebook? You know, it's been 2 years now. Did you know that, you know, it's a virus? You can't take an antibiotic for COVID. And most of your herbs are antiviral and you have them around the house already. And it's like crickets. People are like, yeah, we don't care. We don't care. I don't get that. I mean, I just want to know those things. But herbs are not an antibiotic. Bio means life. And I'm going to repeat that a few times. Oh, there you are. Bio means life. The parasite might not die. It leaves voluntarily. So if have you ever had it where, not to be terribly gross, but if you start to eat right and your stomach kind of cramps, and maybe I should say that more for another slide, but you find yourself having to go to the bathroom and you think, ooh, is this making me sick? Well, the parasite is actually leaving. You're feeling the difference, and it's a healthy thing. Oh, okay. I had a picture, and this was my zoom in, but in case anyone would want to take a picture of that, I gave the zoom in of the recipe. But fire cider, I get your apple cider vinegar, some honey, ginger, horseradish, onion, garlic. I use cayenne pepper, and these extra things they have here. Take a sip of that if you think you're getting sick, and you'll feel much better. You know, it won't taste good, but we're so used to all of our medicines being in capsule form or jacked up with sugar, high fructose corn syrup probably, and you know, it tastes pretty good now. You know, our vitamins, our little Flintstone gummies. In fact, if you start reading some of these old stories, remember it used to be like, oh, you know, a spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down. It didn't used to taste good. We're spoiled. So anyway, but look at this. I kind of like this. I forgot I have this option here. You can add it to veggie juice, drizzle on a salad with olive oil. Now those strong flavors don't seem quite so bad, because it just kind of looks like what you might have had in a bottle of Italian dressing anyway, up to a point. So anyway, so that will help you. Oh, I can point it this direction and it works, so I just did it by mistake. So here's your antibiotic cycle, the pharmacy company, the years of research, the new drug, the microbes, and there it is. How I got started in this, I got to thinking today. My kids are in their early 40s, one is in late 30s. And I had my very firstborn. I'd call the doctor, you know, how old is he, what does he weigh, does he have a fever? And then they asked these 3 questions. I said, he's got a stuffy nose, he's not eating very well, I think he has a cold. He was a preemie, so I was a nervous first mom. And does he have a fever? I forgot the other question, probably just the stuffy nose. And is he tugging at his ears? Yeah, I kind of think so. Okay, antibiotic. Another time I called, same thing, stuffy nose, same 3 questions. I answered them differently. Antibiotic, ear infection. 3rd time I purposely said, no, he's not touching his ears at all. Antibiotic, ear infection. So, it's okay. So I went to the pharmacy and I said, you know, is there just something over the counter? Because so already I was kind of turning against the antibiotic and the prescription all the time. And so he just says, yeah, what does he weigh? Well, he's reading label, he's not 2 years old, he's about 6 months old, but you know, give him about 1/2 teaspoon or something, you know? So anyway, that's kind of how I am. I've just always been that way, to kind of go, let's just take that prescription and toss it. So they don't leave, we are missing some slides here. They don't necessarily die, they leave voluntarily, and I kind of thought that was cute. So anyway, they leave on their own. Yeah. Okay, your body has 9 times more bacteria than human cells. That absolutely stunned me. So we have 80% healthy cells, 20% unhealthy cells. So the deck is stacked in our favor. We have about 2 to 6 pounds of bacteria in our body. So anyway, so 39 trillion bacteria, and I divided that by 9, and it does come to 4.333333 trillion bacteria. So that's how many cells you have. This is how much bacteria we have. That amazes me. So there's a lot of times I try very hard to just find a whole page like this. So I'm not sitting here telling you my opinion. It comes from someplace. So see what's inside your body. You know, your carbs, your sugar, more sugar, hello fat storing, blood sugar levels. And if we started to eat like this, we could actually get rid of a lot of diabetes and cholesterol issues and heart issues and so on. So anyway, I just realized, Linda, who you are, because you said Linda, and then I heard your voice, and I was making the connection. Okay, I'm glad that didn't happen. 1/4 of what you eat keeps you alive. The other 3/4 keeps your doctor alive. Who do you think said that? And I thought, okay, here I am, stepping into it, sounding political again. Do you think that came from maybe CNN or Fox News or Dr. Fauci or whatever? I hope this thing disappears. Yeah. Look at that. Look at that. That's ancient. That's 35 whatever 100 years ago. They found that hieroglyph written in an ancient Egyptian tomb. I wonder if that was scratched in there because of what he died from. I don't, I mean, that just amazed me. But anyway, so garlic. If you don't remember all the details of all the herbs, because you're gonna get overloaded, and I can't remember them all, and I put this together. Remember garlic and remember oregano. They're on the top of the list. So G-O, garlic oregano. They're like the best. And I will tell you this, I did get COVID the first time around in 2020. Starting out with a sore throat, and I went, oh, body aches, oh, flu-like symptoms, oh, I think I have it. And I thought, oh, I can sleep through a sore throat. I had sore throats before, and it was getting really, really raw. And I kicked myself in the behind and said, you need to do what you tell everyone else to do. I got up and I ate 1 piece of garlic, 1 whole clove of garlic. And then it's not in this presentation, but I took a little teaspoon, a little dash of cayenne pepper, got my little honey bear out. It doesn't taste great, but I kind of like hot things. But anyway, as soon as that cayenne pepper hit my throat, I knew that it went first of all, the cayenne pepper was soothing on the raw. And I knew it was done. I probably burned whatever they look like, whatever the virus looks like. It probably actually burned it, released it. From that point forward, I felt better. Now, am I saying, you remember my medical disclaimer? So anyhow, things aren't popping up here regularly, but we've all seen little jokes about this, and I thought, well, it is a library, so you might have a little book on such. But anyway, here's some more stats on garlic. It's overwhelming what you can find, what garlic will do for you. It's good for your heart, it's good for your blood. It just sort of is, we don't like how it tastes. They don't like how it tastes. They don't like how it smells. They don't want it, they don't want to live there. And I'll refer to this later with a different slide, but who cares if I repeat myself a lot? Do bugs go after your garlic under the ground? They don't do that here either. They don't do that in your intestinal tract either. So it's the same concept. It repels there, it repels here. So when I got back from Indonesia, and I was a little bit nervous about a parasite, this was 2003, and I was just, the internet was probably dial-up, I was looking a bunch of things up, and one suggested, have a carrot first thing in the morning, and I'm kind of going, that's interesting, because we're going from garlic to onion and thyme and oregano, and a carrot is kind of sweet, and that's where I made that connection. Your root vegetables, they ripen underground, they repel the worms, they repel the parasites. Think about that. Think of that connection. So So here's some more. I mean, I just gave you two of them, but we could go on, and I won't stand here and read them all out loud. Aids and digestion. Earache, I've already stuck one in my ear. Slept like this, and it kind of helped alleviate it. Cholesterol, eye infections. You'll see this word pop up a lot tonight. You'll see that word pop up a lot tonight. How we doing on time?
You're good.
Okay, remember my. Okay. I have done this, and if you end up with it at the end of the year and you didn't get sick, think about barbecue sauce or something. You've got your onions or your garlic and your honey, but take a spoonful of that. It'll taste like honey. It'll smell like garlic. So just plug your nose and take a spoonful of honey. Put that in the fridge. It'll turn kind of runny, but just take your garlic and your honey, mix it up. Take a spoonful of it. You don't have to even take a spoonful of the actual garlic. There you go. Add some ketchup and some other, and now you have a barbecue sauce if you end up with it afterwards. So, will it taste good? No. But anyway, plant in autumn. This is one the way I changed it because I thought, well, we're the gardeners, so you're gonna want some of these little planting ideas, so I popped that in there. But plant in autumn, kind of like the tulips, you know, it's a fall thing, and they'll start sprouting kind of during the, down here we can get a lot of warm winter frost, warm winter frost, and so I can throw your garlic off. I had 1 year I threw my garlic off, but it'll start growing throughout the winter, and June, July, there you are. So, who grows garlic?
And I actually, I plant it, I've tried planting it almost every month of the year because every year is different.
Okay.
And this year it did pretty well. I planted it early January.
Okay.
And it did better than what I planted in the fall the year before, so.
But you say every month of the year?
I've experimented over the
Okay.
years since I've been down here. Up north, it's clear, you plant it, you know, before
Yeah.
the frost nights. But, and not all garlic is the same.
Right.
So depending
Right.
on which kind you have, but,
Yeah.
so January actually worked pretty
January
well
worked
for me
better.
this year.
I'm gonna remember that, because I'm more like a September, October, November.
Yeah, well, I'll do that too, you
But
know.
then
I'll
it
just
comes
keep-
right up, and then, yeah,
Yeah, so my
interesting.
January stuff came up pretty well this year.
Anybody else?
I grow from seed, so I planted in.
Garlic from seed.
I do onions from seed too.
I've not done garlic from seed. You know what they also say? They say don't use the stuff from the grocery store. I don't use the stuff from the grocery store. I don't know. I haven't done the good stuff yet, so I can't tell you pro or con on that. But if you see it in the grocery store and you've got a little green sprout coming out, that baby's got a will to live.
Yeah.
And I think I should just do that. But anyway, okay, so oregano. Did you know that, oregano means joy of the mountain? All these different things. It surprised me, obviously, parasites, inflammation, tumors, kind of the cancer word there again, bacterial infections. It's good for everything. How can you store your herbs? This will be a repeat too, but you can preserve it in honey. Honey never goes bad. It might get sugary, but it never goes bad. Infused in vinegar. And whoever wins will get my little basil vinegar. So I did one for you. I'll put them back in there. Dehydrated, obviously. Dried and infused in oil, but it's good to be dried first. Have you heard where people were making these fancy little oils and they got botulism?
Oh.
So make sure it's dried first, and quite frankly, I don't bother with it. I just think if you're gonna have vinegar and oil, put it in the vinegar. And it's fun, you know, you start saving fun things like an empty maple syrup container for your friends or something like that. So anyway, save your Worcestershire whatever bottles, your pretty bottles, frozen in ice cubes, tincture and vodka. So you just pack it in there, cover it with vodka, put it in your blender, flip it over, turn it on, and then let it infuse. And after not so long afterwards, you just drain it. And when I get sick, I will take a sip from my little jar of my, you don't have a shot of it. Nobody would want to taste, no one would want to. I'm not promoting alcohol. It doesn't taste that great, but a little sip, maybe a teaspoon or whatever. Full sun, partial shade, wants well-drained soil. Kind of think Mediterranean a little bit. I live in a flood zone. I have a lot of water and slugs in my yard. But anyway, bee balm, I love this. The very thing that attracts the bee, but if you're stung, the leaf alleviates the pain. So grab that leaf and just crush it, put it there. I think that's awesome. That's exciting. It's in the mint family. Many of our common herbs are in the mint family. It's often called poor man's oregano. I've cooked with it. Smells a lot like oregano.
People make tea with it.
Who's that?
People make tea with it.
Okay, yeah, you can make an oregano tea too. And I would say it smells like pizza but tastes like tea. But it's good for all those ailments, yeah. And I've already just thrown it on whatever Italian type foods. So, mint, the aggressive one. Promotes digestion, oral health, cancer, there's that word again, nausea. I often think of stomach with mint. I don't think of congestion, but Vicks kind of has a, we say mentholatum, mint. So, yeah. And I've said this 3 times now. I always forget the last one, and I'm not trying to be funny. It improves your memory. I should be here chewing gum. So you can make an extract, vodka, mint. You can throw it in your blender. After when it starts to look dark brown, you know it's ready. Strain it. There's your mint vinegar. Again, something that looks expensive from the store, but here you have just cheap vinegar and the most aggressive herb in your garden. And cute little jars, and people think it's pretty cool. Okay, and pretty much every culture, but immediately I found Native American, Chinese, African. It's we Americans who don't think so much about having mint tea, but it's pretty much every culture. Is it any surprise then that Rolaids tastes like mint? Or mentholatum, the menthol in there. So brush your teeth, there's your mint. Antibacterial, antimicrobial, antioxidant. Pop a little bit in your smoothie and the bees love it, so it's a good pollinator. Am I going too fast or anybody want to pop in? Okay. Likes a lot of water. It prefers shade, and it likes medium soil. So if you get it too sunny and it's getting really leggy, put it in the shade, and then you'll get the nice larger, plumper leaves like that. So, but what looks almost exactly the same lemon balm would rather have more sun. It's in the mint family. The mint is more of a stimulant. This is more of a calming. This will help you with your thinking. It's more calming. Cold sores, isn't that kind of interesting? You always hear like herpes simplex too, the cold sores. There's nothing you can do for it, but they're saying this will work for it. Mild sedative, antioxidant. I'm not reading every little thing. Insect repellent, but see how you keep reading this? Anxiety, and lowers blood pressure, and it's very calming. There it is. There it is. Isn't that interesting? They're not saying herpes on the label, but they're saying it's good for that. I would try it. I mean, do what the doctor says, but I would think. And rich soil, plenty of water. Time, my little joke, time is short, the short tiny herb. So I have a hard time with time. Why? Because I have such a wet backyard. My yard is down a slope. I'm technically in a flood zone. I have a hard time getting time to come back year after year, but it's a pretty solid, tough little plant. Again, just look at this, your vitamins, your nutrients, your minerals, improves circulation. Do you kind of see a little common denominator here, like you've got your oregano, you've got your bee balm, you've got your thyme. Sometimes you can just find a little jar called Italian herbs, because they're all in there. And before you try to memorize just every one of these things, you can't memorize it. Just kind of put it in your head as the good herbs, you know, good versus bad or whatever. This is a good one. Mix them up often and be liberal. If you're growing them, be generous. Put it on your food, yes?
Is lemon thyme just as good as a regular thyme?
I think so.
Well, it
And-
smells good, don't it?
Yeah, and there's English thyme and there's Italian thyme, and I don't know the difference. I have a friend who, I'm not gonna say she's Italian, she is from Italy. She goes back and forth a lot. And she'll always say, no, Italian thyme. Well, I don't know. I think it all kind
Well,
of,
the lemon definitely
very
has a lemony
similar.
flavor.
yeah,
So it's really good on fish, things like that.
but it's
that
still
you
in
like
your,
lemon.
the family.
And I have found lemon thyme tends to prefer more water,
Well, see,
just in general, it.
And I didn't know that.
Yeah, I've had that same issue, and once I put it where it was a little wet, it seemed to be
We
pretty.
put it around the pond this time and it's growing like crazy, where before it was dry
So-
and die.
lemon thyme is different then. Oh, well, then I have to look that up, I don't know. And if it prefers wet, because here's my next slide, well, here's some more stuff. I can go back and forth. There we are. You often see people suggesting you put it around your stepping stones, and it can be dry, and it's very like a Mediterranean type thing. And it's okay if you just act, you know, obviously you don't want to walk all over it, but a little stepping on it releases the fragrance, and it doesn't want a good rich soil. So maybe lemon thyme's different. Maybe it's different, but I'm overwhelming you with this on purpose, just to let you know there is so much your herbs do, and if you see one of your symptoms, go for it, but otherwise just add them to your food, and richly and generously and indulge. They're good for you. So, again, look at this, your chest, your cough, your colds, intestinal worms. I do remember Dr. Oz, and I don't remember anymore, I can't picture it if it was over a Good Morning America or something, but he was talking about, that's when I came back from Indonesia, and I was thinking parasite, because they talked about it a lot, and it scared me once you start getting there mentally. He said make a tea from thyme and drink it first thing in the morning every day, but have to do it for 2 weeks because you want to kill the eggs. But he said don't do it after 2 weeks, stop, because it's so effective and you need your good bacteria. So I just think that's kind of interesting. All right, again, look at that. Look at all the vitamins and all the, just amazing. Okay, any soil, the less rich the better, unless it's lemon. And dry conditions, unless it's lemon time. And fine with light traffic, Sage, called Sage the Savior. This one, my yard is too wet and I have a hard time with it. But it's good for swelling, sprains, rheumatism, ulcers, women problems. Oops. Catch that train. So, when I was going through menopause, my mom was at the rest home, or probably assisted living, I think. But a nurse told me, take some sage, have some sage tea, it'll help with your hot flushes, whatever. It's kind of a woman's thing, but not limited to that. Look at the whole list, everything. anti-carcinogenic, there's that cancer word again. Relieves Alzheimer's symptoms. Assists in lowering cholesterol. I'll tell you what.
We need it every night.
It does help with that. Not that I'm your case in point or anything, but that's what I mostly remember with sage, and I'll tell you why, because we refer to somebody as being a wise old sage. Guess where that word comes from? Guess where that comes from? I mean, it's named after, I don't know which came first, the chicken or the egg, but we call someone a wise old sage, and here's your sage. It is good for your memory. Sage and honey. Now, I did the honey and cayenne pepper, but here's another one. So, and have you ever been to a powwow? In Grand Rapids, we had two a year, and I've been to others. And they will take the eagle feather and they'll look at the sage, and it will look something like this, all wrapped up, and they'll burn it, and they'll kind of go like this, kind of go all around and go around the room, and I don't know if they're praying, they might be saying a prayer, and they believe they're driving out the evil spirits. However, it has been proven to remove airborne bacteria. Is that kind of cool or what? I think that's very cool. So yeah, the term wise old sage, it helps with your memory, it's good. Here was kind of fun. I just simply typed up, because I wanted to tell this sort of little joke. I simply typed rabbi in a garden, and he came up. But anyway, there's a little joke, which won't be knee slapping funny, but there's always that wisdom behind it. But there was a rabbi in his garden, and one of his parishioners, if they're called parishioners, came up to him and said, "Rabbi, God sure has blessed you with a beautiful garden." And he said, "Well, thank you. You should have seen it when God had it all to himself." But, so some people think, oh, she's being blessed with whatever. But here's the beauty behind that is the garden is a gift, but so is responsibility a gift. And then, there's more to it than that. With the weeds don't pull themselves, so it's all a gift. And the marriage between God and the gardener is, you work together. So the garden is the gift, but, life began in a garden. So anyway, there's a lot of wisdom, good wise old sage wisdom. So here's my sage advice. Another pun. Full sun, drought resistant, dry soil, high temperatures. Think of Mediterranean again. Think of a little more drought conditions. How am I doing? We're getting there.
Yeah.
About 15 minutes?
Yeah.
I think I can do that. Okay, basil. There's a ton on basil. I only gave you a little bit. But they even refer to it as holy basil in India. Just look. I won't stand here and read just every little thing. I'll let you look it over. Benefits of basil. Again, sharpening memory, cold, flu, herpes, infections, antibacterial, removes phlegm, relieves mucus. It keeps the bugs away. Ways to preserve it. Did you ever make pesto? Yeah. I have heard if you want to freeze it, don't add your Parmesan cheese to it, but add it later. But whirl it up in your blender and freeze it for later. It tastes like summertime in the middle of winter. I love that. Tastes delicious. I actually don't put the pine nuts because I heard walnuts were better for you. So they're cheaper and better for you. I made the switch. Yeah, and they're better for you. So, and there we go. Purple basil. And it's just fun to watch the vinegar change color. So, and I don't know if it's going to taste strongly of basil, but you still know you put all that good stuff on your salad. So, and it makes pizza look fantastic.
Are you just, excuse me, but are you just using regular vinegar?
You could use anything you want. This, I did just use white vinegar. I've done it with apple cider vinegar. It'll change the flavor. If you really wanted to give someone a gift because you wanted a fancy little bottle, because I watched some videos today just to be sharper for you tonight. vinegar is, you find it more in the Asian section, but not always, but rice vinegar is more mild.
It's wonderful.
And wine vinegar is more mild. Now, those two are gonna come in a prettier little bottle. So, now put your basil in a mason jar, top it with your vinegar, get it to infuse, put it back in your pretty bottle, and give that little bottle to a friend or keep it or whatever. I used to take empty bottles and I had maybe some peppercorns and some garlic and some sprigs of oregano and some pretty things, and I'd give it, so be prepared. We're the gardeners together. But people kind of go, oh, thank you. What is that? I said, well, just use it like if you would use wine or lemon when cooking. And they go, oh, okay. It's like, I know I'm kind of strange. But I'm with my people tonight. So, because I always feel I'm kind of, you have the beautiful, from what I can see, the very manicured gardens. And I'm a little more wild and free and fluffy. I have pink hair. I mean, what must So anyhow, I'm a little more earthy, and I live, I don't know, kind of little house in the prairie, kind of. So anyway, but planting your basil, it likes hot weather. It's kind of an interesting mix, but it prefers the shade. So it loves our hot summers, but it's good to put under your tomato plants. And they go, I forget what it does, but it repels some insect that will bother your tomatoes. Ooh, I just heard something recently, speaking of bugs. If you don't always have your tomatoes staked up on something sturdy, because the tomato branch is sort of flimsy. If you just find a tree branch or something and stick it in the ground, and if birds can settle on it, they will eat the hornworm. Like knowing that. Just passing it along. I can't say I've proved it to work, but I've just heard that
It's
recently.
the only thing cowbirds are good for. They'll eat hornworms.
Okay, well, and last year I had a problem with them, and all I did was put stakes in, but I didn't have anything like this. So I went, okay, lesson learned. So, and it likes a rich soil. It likes what your tomato likes. So, rosemary, cancer antioxidant. This time I typed it all out. Even the smell has been reported to improve your memory. So if I ever see it, I go like that. Go. I remember migraine. I don't get migraines, but they, boil it, put a towel over. It will help. I don't get migraines, so I can't prove that. Anti-inflammatory, antibacterial, digestive health. It's just amazing. Diuretic, respiratory health, liver detox, oops, that kind of slipped a little down. Reduces puffiness. I thought, now how would you do that? Would you make it into a vinegar, I suppose?
Like a toner, I wonder if you could do like witch hazel.
I wondered that too. Because that's already supposed to take the puffiness away, so
Yeah.
you get a double
Dose of it, yeah.
double dose of it. One thing I didn't put up here, because you see it's in so many places, it's supposed to help your hair grow. And you'll see some YouTube where within 6 months, it's like, yeah, I don't know if I'd buy that one, but it probably is still good for your scalp. If they're saying it helps your hair grow, it's probably a scalp
But
situation.
if you're blonde, rosemary and sage are good for brunettes, and they'll darken your hair. So if you're blonde, you might want to go for the chamomile.
And underneath this pink and this blonde, I do have actually very white hair, solid white hair. And a
Yes,
tiny little bit of brunette stayed, but that's about it. Yeah, it might work, but it might be too late for me. So, because I every now and then I think I'm going to stop and go solid white again, but anyway. So, yeah, I have not done that yet, but it makes sense, because if it cures all of that. So, vinegar, infused vinegar, spray it around the house. And it tastes so good. So really good on a potato, good on your chicken, good on your bread like that. Oh, and I forgot spot to give you your planting, but it's think Mediterranean, Mediterranean again. It kind of like your lavender. It likes it dry. It doesn't need a real rich soil. And chives. One way to remember chives and onions and bones is that it's long and slender like a bone. So think of that. Beneficial for, there you are again with your cancer, boost immune system. Onion and your garlic are similar, they're cousins. And I just put so much in here because I don't even stand here and read it all. Good for pregnant mothers. So make your own chive blossom vinegar, freeze it. You can, they're using olive oil, but you can do it with water as well.
We use butter. We freeze little butter.
I forgot about that. I did that with my basil and butter, and I did half butter, half olive oil, and I added a little honey to it.
Wow.
And people loved it.
I bet that was.
Put that on a hot biscuit.
Oh.
Yeah. So full sun, will tolerate shade. I always seem to pick it, so I haven't had it become invasive for me, but one year I'm gonna let it just go crazy and see what happens. But it will drop its seeds. So anyway.
I dry the blossoms, like I'll cut the blossoms as they come in and I dry them in the vase, and once they're dry, I break them up, and then you have those really pretty pale
Yeah.
purple blossoms that you can use as a garnishment on like everything. They're fantastic.
And they're so pretty.
On cucumbers
Yeah.
and rice, they don't really have a lot of flavor at that point, but they're
Yeah.
really, really pretty.
If you eat them straight from the garden, they have a lot of flavor. But anyway, so here is, I'm sorry, did you say everything? Okay, I've got this on my mind. So I've got my little giveaway. I got it started in the windowsill, and I tried to harden it off, but it looked like it was gonna wilt. But it's coming back to life, but I've got a spare just in case. So Artemisia, has anyone ever heard of this one? Oh, a lot of hands went up. Usually people stare at me blankly like, so what do you know about it?
I only know what Adelma Simmons wrote about it.
What?
Adelma Simmons Greer, I think, she did gardening across 5 seasons. She had this huge
Oh, okay.
herb garden in Coventry, Connecticut back in the 60s. She's been dead a long time. She had this great garden, and I found a bunch of her old books, and they were fantastic, and she wrote about that all the time, but I've never got to see it.
But you
So
don't
I'm
remember
super excited.
what she wrote?
Oh, no, I remember lots of
Well,
what she
give
wrote.
me a couple of points.
One, there's like southernwood and wormwood and all kinds of stuff, and there's the whole absinthe tie-in, and then they also, apparently, they used to use it to repel moths in convents. They would lay it between the habits
Oh,
to
how
keep the moths out of
cute.
the nuns' things.
I love
Because
stuff
she was
like
in
that.
correspondence
I love
with
stuff.
several
What
convents.
was her name again?
Adelma Simmons Greer, or Adelma Greer Simmons, I can't remember which one. But Google herb gardening across 5 seasons, it's fantastic.
I didn't
10 out
know
of 10 do
any of
recommend.
that about the moths. I didn't know that. Anybody else?
It makes a really nice decorative wreath.
Because it's kind of pretty.
That
That's
too,
why I said
yeah.
that there. You know how if you pay that for that silvery little plant? Well, get an herb instead. And it's kind of pretty. Yeah? That's it? All right. It's also called wormwood. And it's a very strong anti-parasitic. Very strong anti-parasitic. And again, you see your tumor, you hear your blood, cancer, supports the death. It'll taste very bitter. And so, no, I didn't bring it. But anyway, it tastes really bitter. I once attended a Bible study on the book of Revelation, and the wormwood came up. So I brought it with me, and somebody said, that is the weirdest show and tell I ever saw. But I took a little taste of it. It'll taste bitter. It'll taste almost like dirt or something awful in your mouth. But then all of a sudden you have kind of an aftertaste, kind of anise, kind of black licorice-like, and you almost feel like your breath is smoother. It sort of grows on you. But you wouldn't want to eat a whole lot of it. But it fights your parasite. And that. I wasn't gonna type that in by hand. There are a million that say that. It will kill 98% of breast cancer cells or of most of your cancer. Again, that's why I put the medical disclaimer. I'm not saying go off of what your doctor's telling you to do, but boy, if that can be a preventative, I would take it. Malaria. Here's where I'm gonna get a little close to being edgy, when I typed in herbs found in ivermectin, or I typed in ivermectin and something natural, and Artemisia showed up. Artemisia showed up. And so it fights it's in the malaria. And remember hearing something about horse dewormer? Well, if it it's anti-parasitical. It works. So anyway, that was interesting to me. Full sun, rich soil. Oops, went through that awfully fast. Artemis the goddess, evidently she was like Zeus's daughter and a twin to Apollo, but just kind of trivia. Do you remember hearing in the book of Ephesians, long live Artemis or Diana, the goddess of the Ephesians? So I mean, there's documentation of this. So I would think this was named after her because it's so powerful. Bitter. We Americans don't include a lot of bitter in our diets. Getting there? We're close. There's your bitter herbs mentioned in the Passover Seder, so that's a 3,500-year-old diet. Herbs can refresh the chicken coop. Preserving, I've already referred to it, but dehydrating, vinegars, oils or butters. A little more. Dehydrating. Tincture. And if you have a special solution of 40% alcohol and 60% distilled water, it's kind of a joke because that's what that is. And I always say just get the cheap stuff on the bottom shelf and it works, yes.
Is vodka better than Jack Daniel's whiskey on stuff like that?
It's
Because we've used
flavorless.
Jack Daniel's whiskey for cold medicine for years with honey and lemon juice.
I'm sure it's just fine. If you prefer that flavor, it's just fine.
Oh, I don't like flavor.
Well,
I will tell you from my own experimentation that if you start getting into really, really high proofs, you start pulling out flavor compounds that are in things that you were not prepared to taste. And it gets really, really weird. Like, I mean, all of a sudden things that normally would taste like an herb start to taste like paint thinner or like PVC. Really, really weird.
isn't that
compounds.
interesting?
So vodka's better than,
Yeah, you wanna stick with something that's 40% alcohol or lower. You don't wanna start getting like any pure grain alcohol, because I was like, well, I mean, if this is vodka, then I should be able to extract this and then just cut it in half and save my money.
Yeah.
No, that was a bad idea.
Interesting.
No, that was a mistake. Now you know.
I didn't
The
know
only thing-
that.
The only thing you can do with it is like fruit.
And I stole my little joke from somebody who was explaining without your details that it does need to be an 80 proof vodka, which is only 40%
It takes a lot of mistakes
alcohol.
to figure out things.
Yeah.
And
Well, he said what you were saying, but without the details about flavor. But he said it does need to be that, and you know, it was a chiropractor YouTube video I used to watch. And he said, just get the big bottle, the cheap stuff on the bottom shelf, but make sure it's 80 proof, and that would be 40%. And so, wrapping it up. Enjoy your herbs. Well, you have to forgive some of the technical, but hey, we got it working.